Hey guys, today we're gonna dive deep into Elon Musk's brain and see why the hell is he so successful. Elon Musk is predicted to become the world's first trillionaire. He recently bought Twitter for 44 billion and the main reason for this is he wants to fight for freedom of speech. Woke mobs are freaking out because they're losing their only power, which is to censor people. Now, I've talked about this last year in my videos, although my estimate was he's going to build his own social media platform, but I have zero doubts that Twitter will become the ultimate social media platform. All his companies are leaders in the industry and Twitter will not be exemption. Now, to get the whole picture and have a better understanding on how Elon operates, a little background story first. Coming from Pretoria, the capital of South Africa, his childhood was not that good. Elon's father, Elon Musk, was violently abusive towards his family. In Elon's words, quote, "He was such a terrible human being. My dad will have a carefully thought out plan of evil. Almost every crime you can think of, he has done it." On the other hand, his mother May Musk realized Elon was special at a very young age. She said he could understand very complex issues at the age of 3. For that reason, he was put in school at an early age, and that's when Elon's mind started really to develop. So much that he was afraid he was going insane. He said his mind was exploding with ideas all the time. At the age of 10, he started programming the computer games simply because he loved video games, and as he said, at the time he didn't have any grand design. However, by programming the video games he realized if he can make better software and then sell it, he will have enough money so he can buy better computers. He sold his first video game at the age of 12 for $500. At the age of 17, he moved to America. He received a bachelor's degree in physics and economics at the University of Pennsylvania. He then left Philadelphia because, as he said, he really wants to work with new technologies. And what better place at the time than Silicon Valley? But it was very hard to get a job at the Silicon Valley at the time because thousands of tech guys were competing for a small amount of the job at the time. So after Netscape ignores his job application, he decides to make his own company. And that's where it all starts. The company is Zip2 with his brother Kimball. Now, starting a company wasn't a smooth sail, but after a bumpy start, the company grew steadily, and 4 years later, Compaq Company bought them for $305 million. Of that $305 million, 22 went to Elon and 15 to his brother Kimball. Can you guess what 27-year-old Elon Musk did first? He bought $1 million McLaren F1 and he crashed it after a year when driving with Peter Thiel. Now, aside from buying McLaren, he didn't waste his money on materialistic stuff and was pretty much focused on creating new companies that would change how world operates. So his first goal was to transform the traditional banking industry. So he founded XCOM, which would later be known as PayPal. PayPal was successful from the start, but after a year and a half, Elon was removed from the CEO position. He was removed while he was with his wife on their honeymoon. Typical. I guess Elon learned from this experience because nothing similar has happened to him since. But in 2002, eBay purchased PayPal for $1.5 billion. Of that, 165 million went to Elon. 2003, that's the year Tesla was founded by Elon Musk and JB Straubel. Oh, sorry, SpaceX came 1 year before Tesla. The rest is history. Besides SpaceX and Tesla, Elon founded Boring Company, Neuralink, and OpenAI. He plans to send people on Mars, and as announced at Giga Texas event, we can expect Tesla bot Optimus version 1 next year. He said Optimus will be worth more than the car business. Some would say that's optimistic. Elon recently donated 5.7 billion of Tesla shares to charity, bought Twitter to fight for freedom of speech, named the person of the year in Times magazine, although some were not happy about this. He's the richest and the most successful man on the planet, often in war with legacy media, has repeatedly slammed President Biden for ignoring Tesla at the White House events, even though he paid 11 billion in taxes. Tesla earnings in Q1 surpassed surpassed everyone's expectations at the staggering 18.8 billion. And as Elon stated, Tesla was under the most relentless short sellers attack in history of stock market. And one of the biggest short sellers of Tesla stock was, can you guess?
Enemy spotted.
Bill Gates. You guessed it. You can see it in this DM exchange with Elon Musk. Recent opening of Giga Texas and Cyber Rodeo event was spectacular, where Musk showed us that he's a real-life Iron Man. Oh, and his favorite cryptocurrency is Dogecoin. So, now that we've covered some history, let's dive into some secrets of his success. First and most important is first principle thinking. A first principle is a basic foundational self-evident proposition or assumption that cannot be deduced from any other proposition or assumption. First principle thinking is one of the best ways to reverse engineer complicated problems and unleash creative possibilities, sometimes called reasoning from the first principles. The idea is to break down complicated problems into basic elements and then reassemble them from the ground up, understanding the idea down to its most fundamental components. It's one of the best ways to learn to think for yourself. You know how kids sometimes go on with endless questions, and whatever you answer, they'll continue asking pointed why question at each stage. For me, that's the easiest way to explain first principle thinking. Problem solving is complex, particularly with difficult problems, because our assumptions decide our approach and response. First principle approach will look like this. Break down the problem down to its core parts. What forms the foundational blocks of the system in operation? Ask powerful questions to get to the truth of the problem. How do the parts fit together? What was the original purpose of the system working in this way? Name and separate your assumptions from the facts. Remind yourself of the goal and create new solutions. Here's Elon's explanation in this interview by Kevin Ross.
I think it's also important to reason from first principles rather than by analogy. It's kind of mentally easier to reason by analogy rather than from first principles. But first principles is kind of a physics way of looking at the world. And what that really means is you kind of boil things down to the most fundamental truths and say, okay, what are we sure is true or as sure as possible is true? And then reason up from there.
Give me an example of that. Like, what's one thing that you've done that on that you feel has worked for you?
Somebody could say, and in fact people do, that battery packs are really expensive and that's just the way they'll always be because that's the way they've been in the past. You're like, well, no, that's pretty dumb. You know, because if you applied that reasoning to anything new, you wouldn't be able to ever get to that new thing.
Right.
And for batteries, they would say, oh, it's going to cost $600 per kilowatt hour, and so it's not going to be much better than that in the future. And you say, no, okay, well, what are the batteries made of? So first principles would be to say, okay, what are the material constituents of the batteries? Mm-hmm. What is the spot market value of the material constituents? So you can say, okay, it's got cobalt, nickel, aluminum, carbon, and some polymers for separation, and a steel can. So break that down on a material basis and say, okay, what if we bought that in the London Metal Exchange, what would each of those things cost? Like, oh, geez, it's like $80 per kilowatt hour.
So now that we have some understanding of first principle thinking, let's get into some other also very important things Elon Musk uses in his daily life that we can use to increase our own productivity. Number one, think about solutions that are 10 times better than anything else out there. A slight improvement is not good enough to achieve rapid adoption and behavioral change. Musk quote, "There's a silly notion that failure is not an option. If things are not failing, you're not innovating enough. You shouldn't do things differently just because they're different. They need to be better." Number two, think about all the pieces of the puzzle and focus on each of the individual puzzle pieces without neglecting the others. Musk quote, "If you're trying to create a company, it's like baking a cake. You have to have all the ingredients in the right proportion. Build the right team or join the right team. It is often much more important to achieving success than the product itself." Musk, starting and growing a business is much more about the innovation, drive and determination of the people behind it as the product they sell. Number 4. Ignore the resume. Think about the teammate's character as much, if not more, than their specific technical skills. Musk. My biggest mistake is probably weighing too much on someone's talent and not enough on someone's personality. I think it matters a lot whether someone has a good heart. Number 5. After carefully planning a course of action and deciding you're going to do something, go all in. Pour 110% of your energy into achieving the carefully thought out objective. Musk. What makes innovative thinking happen? I think it is really a mindset. You have to decide. 6. If you believe strongly enough in something, pursue it. If things don't work out initially, as they seldom do, don't abandon it too quickly. In 2008, with the financial crisis seriously limiting his options, Musk personally saved Tesla from bankruptcy. Musk invested $40 million in Tesla and loaned the company $40 million more. Musk quote, "When something is important enough, you have to do it, even if the odds are not in your favor." Number 7. Try to think positive even if things are down, and remind yourself of the old proverb, "This too shall pass." It's often in the pits of darkness that we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Musk. If you get up in the morning and think the future is going to be better, it's a bright day. Otherwise, it's not. 8. Listen to criticism. Ask for feedback, including negative feedback. Absorb it and learn from it. Apply criticism that is relevant and discard the balance. Musk. Really pay attention to negative feedback and solicit it, particularly from friends. Hardly anyone does it, and it's incredibly helpful. 9. Don't continue doubling down on the solution that isn't working. The definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. Musk. Don't delude yourself into thinking something is working when it's not, or you're gonna get fixated on a bad solution. 10. Embrace change. Getting cozy and comfortable is easy. Sometimes it is the right thing to do, but oftentimes refusing to accept the inevitable change will stunt your own growth and path in life, whether in the personal or professional domain, and prevents you from achieving lasting success. Musk. Some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change, especially if the alternative is disaster. So, that's it. For now, we have a lot more to expect from Elon in the future. Whatever he does, he'll be known as one of the most important people in human history. I hope this video helped you. If you liked it, I recommend you watch this video on TeslaBot. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section, and please like, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching and see you soon.